Hi everyone, this is Jewish Talk, coming to you from Nassau Community College on 90.3 WHPC. We're also streaming on nccradio.org. This program is later archived on Spreaker.com. And of course, don't forget, this is repeated on Sunday evenings at 11 p.m. So hi there, my name is Rabbi Perl. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This, of course, all depends on when you are listening or watching. Gewalt! You can actually see us on Facebook Live at WHPC or at my own page at facebook.com/Pearl. So, hello on the radio, hello online, hello on the world, hello to Richard D. Rottenberg from Florida. Hello to Jonathan Wolf, all the way from New Jersey. He is standing by, looking forward to seeing, of course, the eclipse. And, of course, welcome to Zalman Weg, unbelievable. A man who likes matzah, unbelievable. Everybody likes dough. Talking about dough, my friends, stand by. Stand by. I have something very special to announce. And that is, with God's help, we are going to be with you together until 10 a.m., 2 hours today. What on earth do you think? I got nothing else to do with my life but talk on the radio, but it is a special day. It's a great honor. I'm humbled to join this great station's annual fundraising campaign. Say once a year, as one of the wonderful community volunteers on the radio, we come out to our listeners and we invite your support. That means we are raising money. It's a special radiothon to help this station. This station comes out of Nassau Community College. It helps the students, and beyond its own budget that's provided by the college itself, there are many more things that the actual station needs to be able to provide a wonderful learning lesson and preparation for the students. I've been part of this great station for, I think, more than 3 decades, maybe more. And I've already forgotten now. And my car, I just say to my car, station, and it drives all by itself. I don't even have to have an auto car. It just goes by itself on Sunday mornings. So each year I come, we have our program. We're going to learn all about Passover, talk about all kinds of good things. At the same time, please, today is a mitzvah to interrupt me. Take this number down, 516-572-7438, 516-572-7438. That's our special hotline to make a donation. The amount is not important. It's that we show our appreciation. And I personally really have an affinity to this particular fundraising campaign because I myself have seen over the years how the station has grown. The great leadership of Sean Novat, our station manager, Kim, my amazing engineer, the dedication, the amount of programs, giving the young men and women the opportunity to take their place in this world. And if they choose to go involved in radio or other kinds of media, they're getting an amazing education down here. So I encourage you, please, just call up. There's a wonderful, what's the name of the person answering the phones is...
Gabe.
Gabe. Just say, Gabe, I want to support the program, want to support the station. Call up 516-572-7438. I've just been handed by Kim a very special promotion that if you make a donation of $50 and up, you can actually get an Echo Dot from Amazon. And again, an Echo Dot from Amazon for a donation of $50 and up, but any amount is so much appreciated. So I want to say welcome to Eitan Kalshevsky, to Lavana, good morning to you, Boker Tov, to Karen Dumbeck, and everybody joining us. You can put your posts up on the Facebook page. You can make a phone call, 516-572-7438. And I'd like to begin with a little bit of music today because we got 2 hours here today. 2 hours. We're here till 10 o'clock. So please cancel the golfing, the bagel eating, and the schmearing. You're going to be here. Please, I welcome you to stay with us till 10 o'clock. We have lots to music, lots to talk about. Passover is a time when nostalgia pervades and we dig deep into our rich past and uncover memories, both joyful and painful. I invite everybody as well, if you wish to make a donation, or if you would also like to share with me a memory of one of your most favorite Passover Seders. I'd like to share with you mine. I remember as a child my tears of happiness that I would feel and actually, come down my cheeks, because when my dear mother finally sat down at the Seder with us, I was so appreciative for all of her hard work to ready us all for Passover. Everything was enough, and everything was so beautiful. Also reverberating in my mind to this day of some of my favorite memories of the Seder is the memory of my father, blessed memory, sitting royally at the head of the table and sharing with us his annual Seder message. He would remind us, each and every one of us should see oneself as though he or she personally was redeemed, leaving the bondage of Egypt. We go back in our collective memories, he would add, we access and touch deep within the recesses of our soul the original Exodus experience. We should literally see ourselves being lifted out of bondage into the loving embrace of our Heavenly Parent, redeeming us out of love for each of us. Only Hashem can help us assuage our longing and wipe away our tears of loss, pain, and suffering. And certainly this message is so important to us these days, as Dr. Kilshevsky reminds us again of the darkness of the sad passing of 4 Israeli soldiers in Gaza earlier today. May their memory be a blessing. So why don't you give us a call? Perhaps you'd like to share with all of us some of your memories, some of your favorite memories, of course, or any memory of the Seder table itself. And by the way, for those who are just joining us, we'll be on the air until 10 a.m. today, allowing all of our listeners the opportunity, if you wish, to join us in this special annual radiothon to help this great station, WHPC. I am one of the volunteer community leaders who had the opportunity to come to you, and this station has amazing programs of all kinds of genre. I attend the meetings, the staff meetings, and I quell, so to speak, to see the young men and women who are so excited about the station and given the opportunity to learn all about this. And the money that's been raised today is to help the station with all kinds of things that are not covered in the budget that the actual college provides. And we're talking about upgrading the phone system. We're talking about purchasing new computers so we stay up to date and every ability to be able to answer 2 phones at the same time. Meanwhile, my phone line is it's burning off the hook over here. Kim, I think it's time to ask Sean to add another 5 or 6 lines, because too many people are calling me at the same time. And please, I can't handle it. Please, everybody, please try to space it out. Our number is 516-572-7438. Gabe is standing by there. He'll take your donation, your pledge, whichever way is good for you. And let's get right into it. The question that we have to ask today is that this is a discussion I present to you from Rabbi Abraham Ibn Ezra, known as the Ibn Ezra. He was one of the most distinguished commentators of the Tanakh and Jewish philosophers in history. In addition to his Torah commentary and philosophical works, he was also an eminent poet and authored important works on mathematics and even astrology. And at the beginning of his commentary on the 10 Commandments, the Ibn Ezra describes a meeting between himself and another giant, Torah giant of his time, Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, the author of the Kuzari. This was their profound dialogue, an important question that was raised by Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. This is a very famous question. We all know of the 10 Commandments. The opening line is, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt." And the question is, wouldn't it make more sense for God to introduce himself by way of a far greater, more encompassing achievement, that God who created the heaven and earth? Isn't that where the conversation ought to begin? In fact, Rambam, Maimonides, in the beginning of his works of the Mishnah Torah, he clearly states the foundation of all foundations and the pillar of wisdom is to know that there is a primary being who brought it into existence. All of the beings of the heavens and the earth and what is between them, they all came into existence only from the truth of his being. That means basically establishing the fact that God created the heavens and the earth. So we have everything here. Furthermore, in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, God is everything, and everything is God. That means God gives life to every human being, or every living thing, sustaining everything from the eggs of a tiny louse, to the horns of a wild ox, to the rivers, to the oceans, to the hills, to the mountains, to the sun and the moon. So why then, in the most defining moment of our history, when giving us the Torah and tasking us with the divine mission of all time, God focuses on a singular event that began and ended thousands of years ago of coming out of Egypt? Wouldn't it make more sense to speak, "I'm your God, who created the heavens and the earth"? Imagine a father sitting with his rebellious teenage son, sitting down for a talk, and he tells him, "You owe me respect." Why? Because of the time that when you were 12, and I saved you from that big bully who was about to beat you up. Come on. Of course, saving the 12-year-old is important, but doesn't it pale in comparison to the fact that the parents brought the child into the world and spent so many sleepless nights taking care of him and hard days at work providing for him? Similarly, if God is trying to impress upon us a sense of duty to him, why not go straight to the beginning? "I'm your God who created the heavens and earth." Many answers are given to this question, and I'm going to share two of them, and then go to our telephones. Please, 516-572-7438. This is our special number. If you'd like to join us today, whether you have a comment about your Seder or whether you'd like to make a donation to this great station, doesn't matter how much it is, but it's our way of showing appreciation for the fact that we have the opportunity to talk to each other every Sunday morning and at the same time do a mitzvah of helping this station provide a foundation for so many young men and women, students here at Nassau Community College, in taking their positions in this world. There's no greater feeling in helping. We always talk about one thing is giving somebody fish, but teaching them how to fish is more important. So today, every dollar that you may wish to donate here will be used to help these students. Again, that number is 516-572-7438. Call in, and we appreciate your support in advance. And as mentioned, the station is very kind. Anybody making a donation of $50 and up can receive an Amazon Echo Dot. So again, what are the answers to this question? Good morning to Jeannie Marie and everybody joining us. So many answers given to this question. Again, our question is, why does the opening salve of the Ten Commandments talk about God took us out of Egypt? Why not say something more basic? I'm your God who created the heavens and the earth. So the Ibn Ezra offers a very practical answer. God wanted the people's faith and sense of duty to him on something they had experienced personally. Think about it. Just 50 days before the event at Mount Sinai, every one of us had seen firsthand how God brought us out of the land of Egypt. When they passed through the Egyptian borders to freedom and watched Hashem bending the rules of nature to his will and reshaping the world order like Play-Doh. Let the people's faith be anchored in this miracle, which they had actually seen with their own eyes, rather than trying to impress on them his greatness by mentioning the creation, which had occurred at that time 2,448 years ago, which to them was only an abstract belief. That is answer number one. Answer number two, another answer, is that God introduces himself by mentioning the Exodus, because the Exodus was an event unique to the Jewish people. Of course, the creation was encompassing all of humanity. So at Mount Sinai, when God prepares to issue the Ten Commandments and a way of life that will apply uniquely to the Jewish people, it makes sense to start with something that connects him in a unique way and places upon us a unique responsibility. But also today, I'm going to give you a third answer. It's an answer. It's based on the teachings of Hasidus. What I share with you is based on a letter written by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1945, years before he even became the Rebbe, which was in 1950, in which he explains the true meaning of leaving Egypt back then and in every generation. Essentially, the Rebbe explains that the Exodus is more defining of Hashem's, of God's greatness, than the creation of the heaven and earth, because leaving Egypt is an even greater miracle, and therefore the message that I want to share with you today is nothing short of transformative. The Rebbe explains that the miracle of creation is to turn nothing into something, whereas the miracle of Exodus was to take that physical something and demonstrate that the rules of nature ingrained in it aren't binding. When God created the world, there was no playbook dictating how it had to be done, either this way or another way. God had a clean slate, so to speak, and could form the world however he wanted. But once the world was created, once there was a mighty Egypt, from which nature dictates that nobody could escape, once there was a sea, which nature dictates you cannot walk into and survive, you're dealing with an existing system that you now must fight. So in this sense, the Exodus from Egypt is really the greater miracle. Creation proved that God, the Creator, can create. But the Exodus proved that the boundaries set within creation don't have the final word, and God always remains in charge. Just as we're all discussing that the earthquakes on Friday and tomorrow and on Monday's eclipse is all reminders that God runs the show. In a human sense, it is the difference between living life correctly in the first place and fixing one's life after having gone astray. To get it right when you know no other reality is relatively easy. But once you got stuck in a system of bad habits, it is much harder to break the mold and return to the right directions. And this is within our ability at every moment. At the Exodus, God didn't topple only Pharaoh and the walls of Egypt, but he taught us forever that all boundaries, hello everybody, all boundaries, all forms of Egypt are an illusory, they in the face of our personality, of our souls. No matter what situation we find ourselves in, nothing can stop that person from living his life to the fullest and reaching his or her fullest potential. Because at the end of the day, nature is only a tool created by God for us to use to express his will. It may seem like the forces against me are too strong, like I cannot improve myself and live the true life I've dreamed of. Along comes the Exodus and teaches us that living a life of piety, of joy, and healthy productivity is within reach of every one of us. No force can stop us from being who we should be, a dedicated friend, a spouse, a parent, a child, from being who we were born to be. And when a person overcomes the obstacles and does it, it is more revolutionary than creation itself, because it breaks all the rules. It's one thing to build a mansion on an empty plot, but far more impressive to take a veritable ruin, a khurban, and turn that into a beautiful mansion. People like to dream of taking down the old and putting up something nice and newer, more modern in its place. But that has only the quality of creation, not the miracle and the surprise of Exodus. Greatness is taking the old, dilapidated parts of our life, plagued by complications and problems, and proving that there's still hope because there is still a spark of God within that. Let's take a break now at a little exciting music over here, or some kind of music. And meanwhile, 516-572-7438. Please, thank you so much for calling in, making a donation on the special radiothon to help this station. Unbelievable. That was... I asked to be interrupting the music because we really have to get going over here and keep on moving. And thank you so much, 516. I see that one line is still available, 516-572-7438. Call in, say hello to Gabe. And I really want to also share with you, that the station also provides an amazing opportunity for many, even people who are not going into radio, but it actually gives people a sense of order, organization, and interaction with other, men and women of the same age. And it creates, there's a kind of a community. And your support, your tax deductible. I forgot to forget about how could I forget that? It's tax deductible. Unbelievable. And with your donation, any amount is appreciated, even if you just do whatever. It doesn't matter. You know what you like to do. And the station has kindly said that any donation of $50 and up, they can actually receive a gift of an Echo Dot. And what is an Echo Dot? It's an amazing little contraption you can put in your house, and you can say to it, "What time does Rabbi Perl get on the radio on Sunday morning?" And it'll tell you exactly. But by the way, we're on here today till 10 a.m. So please cancel all the bagel deliveries and the pizza and the running and the fishing, and the number is 516-572-7438. 7438. Please call in right away. And we want to say happy birthday to Yisrael Nissen Binyamin Ben Yehuda Perel. This is from Judy Kirk, all the way from Cary, North Carolina. Unbelievable. I think NC stands for Nassau County, or is it North Carolina? I'm not sure. In fact, let us know on Facebook where you're listening from, and makes this very exciting. I don't want to continue now with this same idea. We're discussing the question, why does the Ten Commandments open up with "I'm your God who took us out of Egypt," as opposed to why not writing and saying that God created the heavens and the earth? And we provided 3 answers. I want to now share with you a couple of stories that would reflect this spirit of knowing that even with all the limitations we have around us, we have the ability to transcend that. That is what Passover was all about in our special program today, that we can actually surmount everything around us as we say hello to Stephen Epstein with his Ashrei. Unbelievable. And Judy, thank you so much for correcting. It's North Carolina. Unbelievable. Not Nassau County, but in North Carolina. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. So here are a couple of stories to show that our spirit, nothing in the world holds us down. Nature is one thing. We can free ourselves. Just like nature said it was impossible for the Jewish people to leave Egypt. They were stuck. There was like a prison. Nobody could actually leave. And then you see, sei gesund. We waved and said hasta la vista to all that time. And we are sitting down now eating matzah and maror and all the good things and celebrating Passover. So the first story I share with you is from the famous Jewish psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, a good friend of Dr. Kolshevsky's, who developed the premise of his book called Man's Search for Meaning. And it all reflects his time in Auschwitz, in the concentration camp. It was there in the valley of the tears and the shadow of death that he realized that you can take everything from a person but one thing, and that is the freedom to choose one's attitude and choose his response to any given set of circumstances. Dr. Frankl observed people whose bodies were a shadow of their former selves, but whose spirit remained strong enough to choose to share their last piece of bread or thin blanket in the cold night with another prisoner to alleviate someone else's suffering. My friends, this is what it's all about, the miracle of Exodus. This is why the foundation of keeping the Torah and having a relationship with God must not start. Must be, what's the basis is not simply because of creation, but about leaving Egypt. Because to serve, to appreciate our relationship with God, a person must remember that he has the ability in any situation not to betray their Tselem Elokim, their image of God that is shining inside of us. As demonstrated, I'm going to share with you now an amazing story. Listen, my friends, please, make a phone call, 516. Listen, Gabe came, he gave up his Sunday morning. He could be playing golf. He could be out there in the streets having a good time. He gave it up to volunteer to help answer the telephones. I can't afford to have him sit around there and twiddle his thumbs. Please call up 516-572-7438. I want to say a big shout out. I hope she's listening to Kathy. I call her Kathy Roberts, for an amazing boys and men's wear store, Roberts in Mineola, one of my favorite locations. Kathy, thank you so much. I remember your parents who were so kind to us all over the many years. So thank you so much for joining us. And let's continue. So here's the first story, and I'm reminding everybody, Passover is a reminder that there's nothing in the world that we can't accomplish. One may say, I'm too old. Maybe I'm living a certain way all my life. It's hard for me to change. Passover says we can free ourselves from nature. All those things can be overridden just with focus. Here's the story of going back to December 19th of 1984. This guy was called a refusnik, and he became a future minister in the Israeli government. His name is Yuli Edelstein. He was taken from his Russian jail cell, where he had been held for 3 months, and brought to court for sentencing. Officially, he was charged with drug possession, but everyone knew his real crime was Zionist activity and teaching Hebrew in the Soviet Union. Security personnel filled the courthouse seats to prevent the media and supporters from attending. Only Yuli's wife, Tanya, and his mother managed to squeeze inside. Yuli's harsh verdict was like this. He was given 3 years of hard labor in a Siberian gulag. After the sentencing, guards formed a ring around Yuli to prevent him from communicating with anyone as he was escorted from the courthouse. But he managed to slip his head between them and call out to his wife, Tanya, what candle is it tonight? Yuli hadn't seen his wife for 3 months and didn't know if he would ever see her again. But what was pressing on his mind was the fact it was the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. Tanya signaled to him with 2 fingers. It was the second night. Yuli somehow procured 2 matches, and that evening he lit them by the barred prison windows, holding them until the fire burnt his fingers. He didn't know if the lighting was halachically, it was valid to do it that way, but one thing he did know was that a little light dispels a lot of darkness. This is the inner story of an inner exodus, not creation. This is a story that demonstrates the true force of that divine soul that we all have. And as we've seen again and again in recent months, following the Simchas Torah attack of October the 7th and the subsequent war, I'd like to give you one example of that spirit, the true force of spirit. As I say hello to Sharon Jacobs. Welcome, Sharon Jacobs. Welcome, everybody. Please remember we have a special number for donations today. I'm conducting a radiothon on behalf of this great station where I come every Sunday, thank God, for more than 3 decades. I'm one of the community volunteers who are given the opportunity to speak their mind, to share ideas, and I do appreciate with great humility and sincerity to this great station, WHPC, 90.3 WHPC, And it's our great manager, Sean Novat, and Kim, for allowing us to be here every Sunday morning. We have a great time. We share ideas. The feedback is amazing each week. But once a year, we show our appreciation by helping the station in any form. And today, it's helping with donations to help the students here. So again, our number is 516-572-7438. It's a tax deductible. Goes to the foundation here that helps the station. And gifts, $50 and up, they receive an Echo Dot from Amazon. So thank you so much for those who are calling in. And let me show you another story of how nothing holds us back. It can be very difficult on the outside, but there's a special holiness that pulsates and transcends on the inside. Every one of us can create an atmosphere of exodus within our minds and our personality and in our life, everything that we do. I share with you the story of Eyal Aharon, a high-ranking Israeli police officer. And he relates the following. He speaks of his father, who was a religious man, and when he enlisted in the police force, this is in Israel, he told me, always remember one thing, love your fellow like yourself. As a police officer, you're going to determine people's fates with your judgment. So judge people favorably and be decent. This is what his father shared with him, advice. On Simchas Torah this year, October the 7th, he goes on, Eyal Aharon, he shares with us that he has two sons, Shaked, 23 years old, and Geva, 20 years old. They were at the Supernova Musical Festival near Kibbutz Ra'im. As soon as the attack began, Geva called me and explained in a whisper that he and Shaked, his brother, had escaped the kibbutz and were hiding with 16 friends in the safe room of a house. The kibbutz was full of terrorists, and I should go and rescue them. I got into my patrol car and rushed south, but I didn't grasp the enormity of the crisis. I assumed 3 or 4 terrorists had infiltrated the kibbutz. On my way, I stopped off at the Ofakim police station to switch from a handgun to a rifle and to pick up another officer to assist me. At the station, I began to understand what was happening. I learned that the gunfights were ongoing everywhere. In that Ofakim itself, in that place, in Sderot, in Be'eri, and Urim, and elsewhere. A wounded officer sat at the entrance at the station, and officers were running around the city fending off terrorists. I realized that I would have to be going to Ra'im alone. In the meantime, I got another message from Geva, his son. Daddy, don't come, he warned me. The house is full of terrorists. Geva, a strong kid, had grabbed the handle of the safe room door so tightly that the terrorists outside couldn't move it. Thinking it was locked, the terrorist fired 2 armor-piercing bullets with his Kalashnikov at the door, which hit Shaked in the leg. Despite the searing pain, Shaked remained silent to avoid letting the terrorists know that anyone was inside the room. I ignored Geva's warning and headed nevertheless down to Ra'im. On the way, I saw utter destruction, like a horror movie. There were burning cars on the side of the roads, bodies strewn about, and blood flowing. But I couldn't stop. At 9 in the morning, I arrived at Ra'im and found myself in a full-blown battle. Terrorists shot an RPG, an explosive charge, at me, but miraculously I survived. At one point, a man in a blue uniform shouted, "Police, don't shoot!" When I asked which uniform he was from, which unit he was from, he said Yassam, which was strange because Yassam wears a different uniform. That's when I noticed a green bandana under his uniform hat. I immediately neutralized the terrorist. He was a member of the Hamas and avoided his abduction attempt. It took me 2.5 hours to get inside the kibbutz and communicate with Geva to locate the house they were in. Outside and inside the house was some 20 terrorists. I saw them looking over their maps and planning their next steps. I saw them set fires to nearby houses. I shuddered for the children who might be inside. Soon, a special IDF unit arrived under the command of Colonel Roy Levy. They had received my location and came to assist. Colonel Levy said, "You and I will engage the terrorists from the front, while my troops extract the boys from the back of the house." A huge volley of grenades, charges, gunfire, and screams followed, but after a few minutes, I saw the boys running out. My son Shaked was carried out through the window, lying in a sheet held by his friends. And then came a moment of humanity I will never forget. Amidst all the fire and the wounded and the dead, Colonel Roy Levy didn't forget me. He sent one of his soldiers to tell me that Shaked had been taken to a clinic and was going to be okay, and that I should leave and go be with him. Colonel Roy Levy did not survive that day, but I will never forget him. My friends, this is the miracle of leaving Egypt. It's our ability and duty to prove that the rules of nature are not the end of reality, but the beginning. The world around us is a platform upon which the human being may climb up and above it and behold the great divine truth that transcends it all. This coming Tuesday, the month of Nisan, the Jewish month of Nisan, begins. As our sages tell us, Nisan is the month of redemption, when our soul's ability to break barriers and leave Egypt comes to the fore and shines more than ever before. This year, may we merit true inner freedom and purpose, and the ultimate redemption from exile with the coming of Mashiach. Let's go to a little music now, as I give you the opportunity to call in at 516-572-7438 to make a donation and help us in our radiothon today. And thank you for all those who've been calling in. All right. You remind me, Kim, you remind me of the story, recently Joe Lieberman, the famous senator, we'll perhaps have a chance to talk about him. When he lost the election, he was running for vice president of the United States of America. He comes home and he looks so dejected and down. And his dear wife, Hadassah, says, "Why are you so upset?" "I just lost the election of as vice president." She says, "Don't you worry. In my home, you will always be the vice president." So thank you very much.
Nice. I like that.
You like that? Okay. So this week, someone told me that he was asked to lead his family Seder in New York under one condition. Listen, everybody. Oh, Jack Klein is here. Jack Klein. Shalom Aleichem, Jack. Yankel. Sei gesund. Good morning to you too. So what was the condition? The theme of the Seder needs to be climate change. Hesta Maisa, climate change. Now, how will he manage to do this? Where exactly will he find climate change in the Haggadah? I think if you change from Maxwell House Haggadahs to something more new, that's called climate change. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, where can he... Climate change in the Haggadah. He told me that he won't even try to incorporate it into the Haggadah. Rather, he will ask every participant to tell him about his or her personal contribution to the war on climate change and share how important it is to them. And then he'll just try to do the regular Seder. Good morning, Cheryl Varon Kowarski. I thought there was a lesson for us in this interaction. Perhaps at each of our Seders, every participant should share a Jewish experience they had. Or even better, being that Passover is about sacrificing the Paschal lamb, the Pesach offering, perhaps every person should share a sacrifice that he or she is making for being Jewish. Sometimes it takes effort to fulfill a mitzvah. You may be stranded in a faraway country and you don't have the means to observe a holiday, and making a Seder, or to hear the Megillah reading. I think a Seder is an opportune time to ask every participant to tell about a time when he went the extra step to observe a mitzvah or to celebrate a Jewish holiday. These personal stories could have an amazing impact and bring a powerful Jewish mood to the Seder. And I want to share with you a little story on that, in that vein as well. Let me tell you a story which occurred to Rabbi Shlomo Kunin, the head of Chabad in California. In the words of Rabbi Kunin, The events which I'm about to relate happened when I was 18 years old and still a student at the Chabad Yeshiva in New York. On the afternoon of the eve of Passover, before going home to my parents for the Seder, I went to stand in line to receive a piece of matzah from the Rebbe. When he saw me, the Rebbe said, "I understand that you are going to the Bronx, so please be so kind and deliver matzah from me to a family over there. My secretariat will give you the address." I was elated to have the privilege to do something for the Rebbe. I couldn't be happier to do this good deed. But when I got the address from the Rebbe's secretary, I realized that it wouldn't be a simple matter. My parents lived near Yankee Stadium in West Bronx, while this address was all the way in the East Bronx, which in 1958 was a crime-ridden area, very dangerous at night. I called my mother and told her, "Mamala, the Rebbe gave me a special assignment. I'm not sure what time I will come home. Do me a favor. If I'm not home for the Seder, just start without me. And if I don't come home until very late, zog sich nicht, don't worry." I took the subway, and don't you know, as often happens in New York, it broke down, and I was stuck for a while. When I finally got off, I just had enough time before Passover started to empty my pockets and throw away all the money I had, since, per Jewish law, I could not have money with me on the holy day. People who saw me do this thought I was crazy, and everyone grabbed what I had thrown down. I walked the rest of the way to Pelham Parkway, and when I asked for directions to the particular address, I was informed that this was a housing project for the blind. And then it dawned on me that there must be a specific reason why the Rebbe sent me here. When I knocked on the door, I smelt something coming from inside that could only be bacon. And when I entered, I saw a loaf of bread on the table. But I knew I was on a mission, so I put a smile on my face, introduced myself to the tattoo-covered man who greeted me. And he said, "I'm here to deliver matzah by the Rebbe. And I'm sure he would like me to share with you the story of Passover. Is your wife and children around?" The man called his wife, who was obviously pregnant, and two little girls who were both totally blind. We cleared the table and started the Seder. We did not have a Haggadah, but I led them from memory as best as I could. I told them that we have to have faith because on this night, God liberates us just as he liberated our ancestors from slavery. The husband and wife seemed to be hanging on to every word as if they were getting nourishment just by listening. I told them that on Passover we journeyed from our personal Egypt to freedom, and that God doesn't put on our shoulders more than we can carry. Once you know that and believe it, you're already liberated. As they clearly had no kosher cups and no kosher wine or grape juice, I asked for paper cups, which I filled with water. This is how we tried to fulfill the mitzvah to drink 4 cups, and we recited the proper blessings over the Rebbe's matzah. By the time we were finished, it was quite late. Yet even so, I wanted to know exactly why the Rebbe had sent me there. So I said to them, I'd be very pleased to know if you don't mind sharing with me how you came to know the Rebbe. And the man replied, "I am a tanner in a slaughterhouse," explaining that his job was to skin the animals after they were slaughtered. He related his story haltingly in a simple way. So I'm just going to condense these words. And I'm going to interrupt myself because I'm so happy to recognize. May I share this with everybody? Yeah, I want to say a big thank you to Dr. Kilshevsky for his donation of $25. Thank you to Judy Kirk, all the way from Cary, North Carolina, $18. Thank you, Judy. Thank you to Malka Kipnis for $36. Malka Kipnis, may Hashem bless you. Malka is one of our stalwart supporters and good friends. She most recently lost her dear husband, Harvey, of blessed memory. And may his neshama be a blessing to the entire Kipnis family and Rosenberg family. And thank you so much for your donation. To Levana Lichter for your donation of $18. Thank you so much to everybody out there. Gabe, keep those telephones going. Don't miss one of them. Our telephone number is at 516-572-7438. I'm glad they don't use the other number because, Kim, everybody gets nervous when they say 2 times 4. So I'm glad you're using this number. People get nervous, 744 something or other, whatever it is. So the number to use is 516-572-7438. As I say hello to Linda Zellickson and everybody out there. So thank you so much for those tax-deductible donations. Keep it coming. We appreciate it. And we're in the middle of a story. We're in the West Bronx. I wonder if Dorothy Rothstein lived nearby there, knows the West Bronx. And we want to wish our best wishes for a complete recovery to dear Dorothy Rothstein, who is recovering and doing well. Our best wishes from Long Island to you. And Baruch Hashem, you're surrounded by family who care for you, are able to come close to you and help you. And we look forward to seeing you back on the island. So this man, remember, we're in the West Bronx. There's a young 18-year-old Chabad rabbi who's sent from the Rebbe with a piece of matzah on the eve of the Seder. And he is encountering a man with a wife who have 2 daughters who are blind. And after they didn't even have wine or grape juice, so they had 4 cups of water, and he made a blessing over the matzah. And he asked this man, like, "What's your connection with Rabbi Schneerson and all in the Bronx, from the Bronx to Brooklyn? What's going on over here?" And he said like this. He says, "I'm a tanner. I skin the animals after they're slaughtered. At work, I met a kashrus supervisor who is a Chabad chassid, and I confided with him that I have 2 blind children, and that now my wife has become pregnant again. The doctors said that this child has a high chance of being born blind as well, and they are advising an abortion. I didn't know what to do," he continued. "It seemed to me on the one hand that we have a high chance of having another blind child, which we just couldn't handle. On the other hand, what if that child would be able to see? Would we be killing a totally healthy baby?" That's what I told the Chabad chassid, who, hearing my story, said, "I suggest you write to the Rebbe, who lives in Brooklyn." This man had no idea who the Rebbe was. He and his wife were Jewish, but that was it all. That was the whole thing. Nonetheless, he did what this Chabad recommended, and he wrote to the Rebbe. The answer from the Rebbe came back: "Don't have an abortion. I give you a blessing that, God willing, the child will be able to see, and you will derive much pleasure from this child and from all your children, including those that have not been blessed with the gift of sight." When he finished telling me this, I said, "Now understand, I was sent here tonight as the Rebbe's emissary to reinforce his message to you. I have no words to explain this man's reaction. The tears were just streaming down his face. Then I walked home through the most crime-ridden neighborhoods and arrived at my parents safe and sound at 4 or so in the morning. My mother was waiting up for me, and when I told her the story, she couldn't have been more happier. But here's the best part. The baby was born, the baby who could see, and the Chabad friend from the slaughterhouse arranged a proper circumcision. Very many years later, I learned that this boy became a very observant Jewish person, as did his sisters. This is recorded. My friends, in the Zohar, matzah is called the bread of faith. It represents the faith of the Jewish people in Egypt, which caused them to follow Moses into a barren desert without any knowledge of how they will be sustained there. Eating matzah gives an infusion of faith into every one of us who partake of it. And when we share our Jewish experiences at the Seder, it strengthens and reveals that connection. Again, we are here until 10 a.m., my friends. Let me just take a little l'chaim over here. L'chaim means I have a little cup of water. Don't get nervous, everybody. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol niyah b'dvareh. My goodness, I've got to be here till 10 o'clock. I've got to keep on going. But please, one way to make me feel good is to give us a phone call at 516-572-7438. Thank you so much who've already helped us. We continue now, 516-572-7438. If you'd like to give a donation, $50 and up, we're more than happy. The station will send you an Amazon Echo Dot. Now, if you're wondering why on earth am I making fundraisers here on Sunday morning, the answer is because I'm part of this great station for many years, and all the community persons who come here or volunteer, and students as well, are making fundraising to help raise a few $1,000s so that can help at the station in items, purchasing, and making sure they have all the latest software and hardware so they can broadcast in a beautiful way, and also give the young men and women a chance to learn about the radio. And there's many things that happen in this radio station. Not only is it for those who want to go into the radio, but even people who may be into accounting come and volunteer their time, help the station. It provides camaraderie, it provides insight to life, and you're doing a mitzvah. If you can, whatever it is, doesn't matter how much it is. The station appreciates it, and I personally say thank you to those who were able to join us already, and those who, please, just pick up the telephone at 516-572-7438. So, I asked also the question, what was your most favorite memories of your own Seder? I tell you, my favorite part of the Seder as well is when the children chant the famous 4 questions, Manishtana. By the way, it's approximately 8:56, and I'm not signing off. I'm going for another hour. And Kim, I want to thank you for helping us this today and making sure we stay online over here at 516-572-7438. So my favorite is listening when my children were younger, or myself, doing the famous 4 questions. But I've always wondered why we call this section of the Haggadah the 4 questions, the Fia Kashas. If you look at the text, there are actually 4 statements. What do we say? Why is this night different from all other nights? On all other nights we eat chametz, leaven, or matzah. On this night we eat only matzah. On all other nights we eat all types of vegetables. On this night, we eat maror, bitter herbs. On all other nights, we are not required to dip even once. On this night, we dip twice. On all other nights, we eat either sitting or reclining. On this night, we all recline. So, are they questions or answers? Sometimes the question is the answer. See, the Manishtan is asking, why is tonight different from all other nights? That's the question. What unique power does the night of Passover hold that it can inspire even the most distant soul and touch even the most stubborn skeptic? What will happen tonight that will change our perspective, open our spiritual eyes, and ignite our souls? The answer: there are 4 ingredients to this night that make it different and give it the power to inspire. On this night, we eat matzah and bitter herbs. We dip and we lean. When we know what these activities represent, we have the answer to why this night is so different. Let me try. I'm glad you're still there, everybody. We're here. That was station identification. And guess what? You're listening to Rabbi Perl. And on this Sunday, we are hanging out until 10 a.m. And as I indicated earlier on, that this is a special Sunday, allowing me 2 hours. That is, 120 minutes approximately of the opportunity to share more ideas about Passover, chance to greet people who are listening and those who have said hello to us on the Facebook. And, of course, the reason for the extra time is to give all of our listening audience, both the 8 to 9 or 9 to 10, the opportunity to call in and help this station. It is a radiothon to inspire us, to help a little bit so that these wonderful students at WHPC know that the wider community appreciates all their hard work, and to wish them success into the future. All of us listening today know the many people in our own lives who went out of their way to give us the opportunity for education, to living, for all the things that we do as we grow up. And today we have the opportunity to pass that on, pass it forward, so to speak, to pay it forward, to help the next generation with their futures. So again, 516-572-7438. It's a tax-deductible donation you can make. Call up, say hello to Gabe, tell Gabe I'm with you, and he'll be more than happy to note your contribution. And for those who are joining us, 9 o'clock, you may say, what kind of news? Usually you have Kim here with her music, and there's dancing going on in this station over here. Now you got a rabbi talking and ranting away. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're stuck with me until 10 o'clock. I'm here to continue on our Jewish talk, which is heard every Sunday, typically from 8 to 9. It's expanded. And Dr. Kilshevsky says, get on with it, enough already. You're right. Let's get back to our question about the Manishtana. I'm looking at the Manishtana a little differently today. The answer is there are 4 ingredients that makes the night of Passover different, that continues to inspire all of us. On this night, we eat matzah and bitter herbs. We dip and we lean. When we know what these activities represent, we have the answer to why this night is so different. On this night, we eat only matzah. Matzah represents humility. It's flat, tasteless, unlike bread, which is puffed up and full of itself. Humility is the requirement is needed to be able to grow and learn. Someone who's full of themselves cannot change. Only if we are open and humble can we truly develop as people. So while on other nights our egos may get in the way of our spiritual development, tonight it won't, because tonight we eat only matzah, the bread of humility. On this night we eat maror. Many people are closed to spirituality, not because of arrogance, but because of indifference. Sometimes we simply don't care. In these times, we cannot be inspired because we lack feeling and are numb and insensitive to spiritual matters. Sometimes we need a jolt, something to shatter our complacency and make us feel again. The maror accomplishes it. There's nothing like a mouthful of horseradish to get your heart pounding. So, Kim, do you remember the horseradish at your Seder? Was it strong? Was it weak? I mean, what?
It was great.
It was great.
I love horseradish.
You love horseradish. Did everybody's turn colors and coughing and spitting?
Not really. I think, I think Jewish people are used to it. You just have, there's like a special gene or something that
can handle
we always had the fresh horseradish though, and then the kind from the jar, because some people like the fresh kind and some people prefer it from the jar. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, yeah. The fresh kind. Your mother grated with her hand, grated it, or she went.
Sure, yes.
Yeah. I remember rubbing off my fingers.
Right.
When you in the old-fashioned.
Right.
But today people they use the machines, right? Machines.
I'm pretty sure.
Grinding machines. Okay, so were the one in the jars was white or was it red?
We had both, because everybody had to have an assortment of I guess spaced on the word horseradish,
right.
Because people like different types of horseradish. The reds taste a little bit stronger. Or no, the white's the stronger one than the red, and then then there's the fresh versus the jar. So
right.
It's a whole thing.
In my home, we exclusively had, you actually bought the whole root.
Right.
And you had to
Not
clean
surprised,
it
Rabbi.
and
Not surprised.
And that's why I'm always hot around the collar.
Yeah.
I'm always eating maror. So sometimes we need, thank you for that memory. Ladies and gentlemen, give us a call. Tell us about your memory of the maror in your house, or memory of your best Seder, or a memory of the Manishtana, or some memory. You don't have to come from the Bronx to give memories. Wherever you are. You can even be in North Carolina. Sometimes we need a jolt, sometimes to shatter our complacency and make us feel again. The maror accomplishes this. There's nothing like a mouthful of a horseradish to get your heart pounding. So we eat maror to remember the bitterness of slavery that our forebears experienced, and by extension, to recall our own inner bitterness, our slavery to our bad habits, and to the darkest side of our personality. All other nights we may remain apathetic and avoid feeling the pain, but tonight we take the bitter pill, we eat the marrow. On this night we dip twice. Some of us go through life without even being present. We may be sitting in one place, but our minds are elsewhere. We are constantly focusing on what needs to happen next, or where we would rather be, and we'll never experience the moment of what it is. Such a life is no life. We miss out on the magic of the everyday simply because we are not looking. So tonight we will be different. Tonight we will immerse ourselves in the moment, in the Seder and its message. We will dip ourselves entirely into the words of the Haggadah. Not once, but twice. In body and in mind, we will be present at the Seder. On this night, we all recline. A major impediment to growth is feeling that we are stuck and where we are and that we cannot change. If only we realize what powers lay within our souls, we would know there's so much more that we can actually achieve. With all our failings and weaknesses, we have a soul, a pure royalty, a divine spark that towers over above all the challenges that life brings. So while on all other nights we may not be aware of it, tonight we recline like kings and queens we truly are. We act like royalty because royalty is royalty. And so the 4 questions are really 4 answers. Why is this night different? Why will our souls be set free tonight? Because we have the humility of the matzah. We will break through our indifference and sensitize ourselves with morah. We will immerse our minds and bodies in the experience of the Seder, and we will acknowledge the true nobility and the royalty of our infinitely powerful souls. And it's the kids who teach us how we do all of this. Look at the children. So, Kim, may I ask you, what was your best gift you ever got for the Afikoman? Did you ever find the Afikoman?
Yeah, my dad kind of put it in the same place all the time.
A creature of habit. Yeah. A creature of habit. Oh my goodness.
I honestly, I liked doing it, but I found it even more fun watching my children and my nieces and my nephews going through it. That was actually almost more fun than doing it yourself. Okay. So now, unfortunately, everybody's big, so we don't have any little kids. They'll still go for it, of course, because there's still a reward to,
So what was the big reward that your father would give?
It was always money. It was always money. I honestly can't remember like the amount, but
right.
We were never disappointed, so I definitely feel like that.
Thank you for sharing that with you with us. And anybody else would like to let us know what were their favorite gift they got for the Afikoman. 516-572-7438. You can use the same number. It's amazing. They're allowing both things from the same number. You can either call in that number and make a little donation to us on a little special radiothon. That's why I'm still on here until 10 a.m. with God's help. It's tax deductible. Or you can just call and tell us a memory of your Seder or your Afikoman. And is it okay, Kim, if we can bring a little more music? The band is here anyway. Thank you so much. Thank you. Gabe just stepped in right now, and I'm getting some more of our pledges. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Patty Fuchs for your donation. Thank you so much. And $50. Thank you. And anybody else joining us? We're talking about our memories that we have of our Passover. And I remember, during the COVID period, where there was an interesting message hanging at the door for Elijah the prophet. This was a caricature of the door opening up, and there was a big sign there for Elijah the prophet coming into the Seder. And on the handle of the door was a mask and gloves, and they said, "Please, Elijah, put on your mask and put on gloves as he entered into the house." So if you have an interesting message or a thought from the Seder, your Seder, please share it with us at 516-572-7438. And I want to say thank you again to Kathy Roberts from Mineola for joining us here today. And, the kids can teach us a lot about everything, especially in Passover. Look at the kids. They are truly free because they have the humility to learn, the openness of the heart to feel and to trust, to be immersed in the moment, and the confidence to believe that they can do anything. So let's listen to the kids' questions. In them, we can find some great answers. By the way, for those who may be just listening to us, not typically on a Sunday morning between 9 and 10, this is Rabbi Perl, and we're on the WHPC Facebook page, or my name, Anshel Perl, on facebook.com, Anshel Perl, my name, and you can actually see us. And I'm waving right now to all of us listening, and if you would like to give us, jot down a post, this is very much appreciated. So let's go to the question again about the 4 questions. Now, this is a question that comes up every year. We have 4 questions, but can you tell me what the answers are? In fact, of the 4 questions, you only find in the Haggadah 2 are being answered. For example, the paragraphs of Matzah Zu. We have a section that answers the question of why we eat the matzah. We also have a section that talks about why we eat the maror, which is reflecting on the 2 questions. And so we're explaining why we eat matzah and why we eat maror. But we don't actually have an answer written in the Haggadah that speaks to specifically why we lean at the Seder and why we dip in twice. The commentaries give us this answer and that answer. We all have. But the question is, how come there's no specific? We ask questions. We have answers to 2 of them, but the other 2, forget about it. What's going on here? Every year, our children ask the same questions, and we never give them the answers. Instead, we pour 4 cups of wine for them, and by the 4th cup, they've hopefully forgotten their questions till the next year when the whole scene will replay itself. Well, I'm just a little kind of joking here. In Eastern Europe, the Jewish schools had a very interesting name. They were called cheder, which literally means, or as Dr. Kilshevsky reminds me, cheder, as to say it with a nice Israeli accent, it means room. In the Talmud, we find many names for schools such as Beit HaSefer, Mesifta, Beit HaMidrash, and even Beit Rabban. Each of these names describes the institution, the books, the study, and the rabbis. But where does the name cheder come from? I went to cheder. And the Rebbe once explained the following. If you look in this Song of Songs, Shir HaShirim, which is a long description of, metaphorically speaking, of a marriage between God and all of us, the actual wedding took place at Mount Sinai, where the Torah was given. And in the Song of Songs, King Solomon describes the event as he brought me into his room, into his cheder. So this whole description, this whole scene is described as God bringing us into his private cheder to study Torah. That's the metaphoric description. The unique thing about this first time is that they entered into the chambers of Torah study, remember the first time, with an open mind. They were not entertaining any preconceived notions. They were prepared to hear and follow without arguments or even question. The commandments they were about to hear was for the first time. This is what made that event, Matan Torah, so special. Young children's approach to Torah learning with the same innocence, acceptance as what happened at Mount Sinai. That openness, that innocence, is why it's called a cheder. And the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, made his yeshiva for only, for only great scholars. But he didn't call it advanced-based medrash. He would call his groups of students into chadorim, cheder aleph, cheder beis, cheder 3, 1, 2, 3. He did this to stress that in his yeshiva, Torah study must be approached through humility and innocence, just like a little child going into cheder or the description of a relationship at Mount Sinai. Well, every one of us, no matter how much we have studied, too must adopt this innocent approach to Torah learning. Instead of coming on with a million questions, where was God during the Holocaust? How do we know God exists? Why do bad things happen to good people? Can you prove the world is only 57, 84 years old? The women have to sit behind the mechitza, and so on and on and on and on. A person should come to hear the words of God and not try to outsmart him. When someone asks me these questions, I always suggest that he put the questions aside and learn Torah with me. Then, after 6 months, we reevaluate the questions. More than often than not, after 6 months, these questions don't even exist anymore. Not because I'm smart and I know all the answers, because they simply disappear, together with the notion that I know everything, I'm so smart, that God should hire me as his advisor if he knew what was good for him. Come on. After a little learning, people come to realize that we are indeed human and that we are just lucky that the one infinite, omnipresent, omnipotent God has chosen us with his Torah and tells us how to live our tiny little lives. One comes to the realization that if God is the infinite creator and we are the finite creations, that it's no wonder that we don't understand his ways. A little Torah goes a long way in what I would call an attitude adjuster. This is also what happens to the 4 questions our children ask the Seder. Remember the questions? And we said this, of the 4 questions, 2 exactly are answered. What happened to the other 2? At the beginning of the Seder, we have so many questions. But as we read the Haggadah, how God so miraculously took us out of Egypt, we slowly are elevated to the point where our questions no longer matter. As they say, for the atheist, answers will not help. And to believers, they don't have questions. During the Seder, we are elevated to the highest levels of faith attainable. So, does anyone have any questions? So, again, it's so important. I want to thank those who are making comments online and those joining us at 9:20 on a Sunday, wondering what is going on here, why the rabbi is still here, where's the music that Kim likes to play. What's your favorite? What's the game? You always tell me the favorite.
Oh, you want to
music.
know who my favorite?
Springsteen.
Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce Springsteen isn't Jewish, but his mother thinks he is.
Oh, okay.
But Adam Sandler's mother thinks she is.
So what am I doing over here today? Oh, so that's it's the question I'm asking myself. But you know what? It's a day, an opportunity for me to show for all of us really, to show our appreciation that we have the opportunity. I'm one of the community volunteers, like many others here, and we come to our listeners once a year to raise a few bucks to help the station, show our appreciation, and everybody feels good. It makes Sean feel good. It makes Kim feel good. It means that everybody out there appreciates what we're doing. Please, our special number for donations today is 516-572-7438. And as Gabe is answering the phones for us, Gabe, I know you're very busy on the phones, and he's going to be coming shortly to join us. Brianna is here too. Hi, Brianna. Welcome. And is Brianna or Gabe want to share something from the Seder, or Gabe maybe? Okay, well, okay. Either one, Gabe or Brianna, if you have a Seder or like to share something about a Passover experience, we're very happy. Let's see now. Dr. Eitan Kelshevsky just sent me a beautiful resource on the word cheder appears a lot in the Bible. Let's see now. Yes, b'chadarecha, the cheder. So we're learning, though, that it's a reference to an approach to how to learn. Just like when I was a child, I went to cheder. It's the beginning, the opening. That's how we should approach our learning every single day, with an openness, with an appreciation that there's so much to learn. And the more we learn, someone said to me in shul just yesterday, the more I learn, the more I realize that I don't know. That's a true humble individual. So again, 516-572-7438. We now have Brianna on the phone as well. So you have a choice when you call up. You can say, I want to talk to Brianna, or you can talk to Gabe. Beautiful. Either way, it's appreciated. Thank you so much to both of you for coming in, spending your Sunday morning with us to help take these pledges. And on behalf of the station, we say thank you. It's 9:23 according to my clock. That means we have a little chance to continue on until 10 a.m. today. Thank you so much. Thank you. We were dancing all around here, over here in the studios, and I felt I should share with everybody a little bit of insight now on happiness. You see, Western culture raised many of us with a notion of happiness that the definition I call is fill in the blank happiness. We all have heard of it before. If only I could fill in the blank, then I will be happy. If only I got into Harvard, then I will be happy. If only I make millions of dollars, then I'll be happy. So modern day happiness has been reduced to a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's seen as a goal or as an attractive destination. However, Judaism's approach to happiness is the exact opposite. Jewish happiness is the starting point, not the goal. Happiness is our commitment to an outlook that fuels us no matter what the outcome. We choose a happy attitude at the outset, bringing this joyous energy into our daily outlooks, our relationships, and our pursuits. The Torah calls on us to be happy first, then we get to work. It's not an easy, by no means, my friends, don't think it's an easy task, especially when life throws us obstacles and difficulties, both real and imagined. Sometimes we are our own worst mental enemy, and we can all use a little help in our efforts to exercise our mandate and call to happiness. So I'm going to share with you some, let's call it usable tips to help us recharge our happiness battery. Number one, if let's say your observant practices is not joyful, you're not doing it right. You see, being happy is a mitzvah. God wants us to bring positive energy into our relationship with Him and into all of the relationships and experiences of our life. It's right there where the Torah tells us, Ivdu es Hashem besimcha. Serve God with joy and wholesomeness. That means it doesn't matter what we're doing, but everything approach, like I'm emphasizing today, you will begin. You're not looking for happiness. You begin your life, your day, with happiness. The Jewish approach to joy sees happiness as the starting point, not the outcome. Spiritually, joy is the energy and the power that fuels our life. It is not the reward for getting a new car or crossing the marathon finishing line. Life itself can weigh us down and challenge us in maintaining a relationship with an intangible God. Joy helps us to break through the gravity of one's life's obstacles and to propel us to have a connection to God and achieve personal growth. When we start with joy, we invite the divine presence and energy into our lives. As the Talmud tells us, God's spiritual presence rests on a person that is joyful. And for those who check me out on Sefaria, that's found in Talmud, Tractate Shabbos on page 30b. Number 2. Dear friends, I'm giving you free advice here. You don't have to go to psychiatrist, psychologist, and all kinds of therapy. Here I'm giving you an insight to being happy. We all have our days in the absence of light. It is easy to cozy into sadness and depression and settle into this terrible, dark world. Our sages suggest that when you do someone else a favor, you may be helping yourself as well. You'll notice that when you give, you create light, which helps dispel dark voids of sadness. So, give joy to feel joyous. Be in service of others with a positive and supportive attitude, as the act of giving won't allow you to be sad. There is no greater joy than gladdening the hearts of the poor, the orphaned, the widowed, and the stranger. Again, that can be found in Maimonides in the laws of Esther and Hanukkah. The Rebbe would often remind his students that our words are powerful. They can enhance our moods and even affect our thinking. To maintain joy, it's helpful to use positive language for your own self-talk and reinforce it by saying positive things to other people. Practice makes perfect. The wisest of all men, the great King Solomon, writes, "If there is anxiety in a man's mind, let him quash it and turn it into joy with a good word, with a good word." Again, found in Proverbs, Dr. Eitan, Proverbs 12, chapter 12, 25. Let's continue this idea of happiness from a Jewish perspective. We can be joyful in knowing that God created the world with the opportunity to improve our lives with a better tomorrow. No one is perfect, and that's why it's important to avoid tying joy to your defined outcome. Sometimes we make mistakes. God gives us the gift of forgiveness, which can allow us to feel happiness in the aftermath of failure. As we know, what Yom Kippur is a day of joy. Why? Because it provides us with the elements of pardon and forgiveness. Another important insight when we talk about happiness is when all else fails, have faith. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. It makes joy pretty hard. Who can be happy in sickness or death? When all else fails, know everything happens for a reason. The faith alone can allow us a little joy. The joy of knowing that there is a master of the world and there is a meaning in everything that happens to us, even when we don't understand. God is infinite and actively involved in every detail of our lives. This is the ultimate faith in the ultimate freedom. It's liberating if we choose faith and focus on trusting that Hashem is always doing good for us, even if we don't understand. As the Mishnah tells us, one is required to bless God for all occurrences, not only for the good ones. You know, another aspect to happiness in life is the attitude of gratitude. When faced with challenges and letdowns, it's so easy to focus on all the things that are going wrong. Generating an attitude of gratitude stops the negative madness and puts you back on track by focusing and appreciating the good that is always there if we just focus on it. Feel the real gratitude for the good in your life. Let's meditate daily on the good. Dream big and think positive to shower the mental goodness on our lives. As the teaching says, when the dream is good, the joy it brings is sufficient. Being present is also a gift. Happiness sounds great, but getting there can be daunting. You can easily get overwhelmed by our endless activities, our commitments and expectations. Dear friends, let's take a breath. Slow down, pause, be present. Take a few minutes to breathe and enjoy the life of being alive. Being alive is good and a blessing. What we have and what we are missing will never take away the gift of all, life itself. That is why the Jewish prayer of Moida Ani, the first words that we do when we wake up in the morning, very first things that we say, what is it? Moida Ani lefanecha, I offer thanks to you, living, eternal King, for you have mercifully restored my soul within me. Your faithfulness is great. The power of momentum as well. When you are upbeat and motivated, you can accomplish great things. The Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, urged his followers, his students, to choose happiness, insisting that joy isn't a reward, it's our responsibility. Try it, and you will see that joy will be the source of your energy, momentum, and power. Your commitment of joy will generate your happy mood and move you to action. Create more momentum by dancing or singing a song. Joy is the springboard mitzvah that enhances all of the others. That's why Maimonides tells us the commandment of joy is a big mitzvah. So take a little different direction for a moment. Again, I want to thank everybody who's listening to us. I'm so happy to welcome Mark Pintel, all the way from Jupiter, Florida. Fantastic. Benjamin Levine, an old friend of mine who made for me my first belt, leather belt. He had owned a belt shop. I think it was in Crown Heights at that time. And he gave me a beautiful belt I still have somewhere. And thank you, Benjamin. We go back many, many years. We're originally from Long Beach. I remember your dear mother. And thank you for listening all the way from Israel. Wow. And thank you for your comfort, and for your kind wishes. So let's think about fish. Fish. Yesterday in the Torah portion, we read about the criteria for fish to be kosher. It has to have both fins and scales. This means that anyone who knows the kosher signs can catch their own fish. And unlike meat and fowl, fish doesn't have to be slaughtered or salted. So if the fish you pulled out of the water is a kosher one, you're good to go. But what should you be looking for? So the Talmud notes that any fish that has scales also has fins. So let's focus on the scales. The Torah the word for scales is the word kaskeses, which differs from the scientific definition of scales. What are kaskeses? They must be visible to the naked eye, not microscopic. Therefore, for example, a sand lance has tiny scales that aren't visible, so it's not kosher. But if the scales can be seen by scraping them off with a rag of a different color, soaking the fish in water, or holding the fish up to the sun, the fish could be considered kosher. Number 2, they must be easily removable. The Talmud notes that the word kaskeses are referred to as a garment. And there's a verse in the book of Samuel that he was clad with a coat of ma'il of kaskasim. So scales must be easily removable, again, to be kosher, either by hand or with a tool, just as a person can remove a garment with minimal effort. If you need to rip the skin to get the scales off, as is in the case of a bony tubercle and plates, or if the scales are sharp like thorns, such as in the case with shark, lumpfish, eel, sturgeon, the fish is not considered to be kosher. The fish need not to be covered with scales to be kosher. Therefore, although tuna typically has very few scales, the most common species of tuna is kosher. The fish may be born without scales. Fish that develop scales at a later point of life, such as some species of sardines, are still considered kosher, even before the scales begin to grow. And if the scales fall off after the fish is removed from the water, which is the case of some herrings, it's still considered kosher. Swordfish. We mentioned that if fish grows scales at a later point in life, it's considered kosher from birth. But what about a fish that loses its scales as it matures? This was the cause of considerable debate regarding swordfish, which appears to lose their scales as they mature. Due to this and various other factors, swordfish is not accepted as kosher by contemporary certifying agencies. What about sturgeon? Looking at a sturgeon, you'll see what appears to be scales. However, they are classified as ganoid, which means that they are covered with ganoin, similar to this texture to fingernails, and cannot simply be removed without tearing the skin. However, since these scales could be removed using scalding water or an alkaline solution, there is a debate about whether or not it should be classified as kosher. The consensus is that it's not accepted as a kosher fish. Sturgeon is not kosher. For this reason, there really is no authentic kosher caviar, as it's made from roe eggs from wild sturgeon. And science has generally different classes of description on the scales: placoids, like we find in sharks, cosmoids, ganoids, psylloids, weiß was da. However, we're not talking about that. We're talking about, so it's tempting to say that about certain fishes, whether kosher or not, but I'm just giving you the general idea. So even if someone tells you the name of a fish, you still may not know if it's kosher, for there are a number of different species of the fish that are referred to by the same name. For example, even the familiar fish, such as tilapia, tuna, or red snapper, can all refer to either kosher or non-kosher varieties. So you can't make this blanket rule that everything is kosher. You've got to be very careful. So if you catch or purchase a fish you're not familiar with, the way to tell if it's kosher is to pick off a scale and see if it peels off easily. Generally. So to all those out there, happy fishing. So again, the Torah is giving us these signs for an animal. Oh, I nearly forgot what I'm doing here. It's 516-572-7438. We are here in an extended hour to be able to show our appreciation, to share more words of thought, at the same time giving the opportunity for people to call in. And we have two wonderful listeners, two wonderful volunteers who are manning the phones. Brianna, how you doing, Brianna? And Gabe, thank you for being here and taking these phone calls for all of us. This is a fundraiser, radiothon, to help this great station with the extra money, extra support for things that go beyond the budget provided by the college itself, to make sure that the students, the broadcasting and all the things, the remote software and hardware, a lot of things go into making a radio station. And it adds not only does it provide all these resources, my friends, I know it, all the students, our station manager appreciates. And we have okay, sure, please, I
just want to say,
yes, please.
I just want to say one thing. Well, first of all, I started here as a student many, many years ago when I first met Rabbi Perl. That was a great experience then, and it's great still. 30 years later, something like
friends.
that. Yeah, we're still friends, believe it or not. What I really wanted to mention was just the programming, that we have over 60 different shows here. And that's because of the community volunteers, that's because of the staff, but it's also in a great part because of the students that learn how to do a radio show and learn how to speak on the radio and learn how to write for radio or for media in general. 60 different shows produced here every single week. Every single week. Here and there we may have some rebroadcasts, but new shows every single week. And that to me is absolutely incredible. I know what it takes to do a radio show, and I know what it takes to do 60 different radio shows. So I just thought I'd say that. And we do that because of the students, because we were able to train these students to learn equipment that's up to date and used in the regular, in communications, in commercial radio, et cetera. So thanks so much for your support.
Thank you. I couldn't have said it better. Thank you so much, Kim. And it's great. It's great. It's a great station, great atmosphere, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of caring for each other. And this is something that I appreciate. I look forward to coming every week. And as you all know, all the good listeners, all those watching us on Facebook, we're kind of friends through so many different ways. And it means a lot to that we come to know each other. And today, an opportunity to extend our hand to others. As I said earlier on, I remember when I was a kid, those teachers who made the extra effort to encourage me, give me advice, and push me to fulfill my greatest, all my potentials. Still working on it, dear friends. I think all of us have had experienced people who went the extra mile to help us in our own lives and our own success. Thank God. So I want to thank you all, because your donations, doesn't matter how much it is, you are making a difference. Here's a Sunday morning. On the eve of an eclipse, with all of its earthquakes. But dear friends, you're doing better than an earthquake and an eclipse. You're opening your heart and your support. So again, before the end of the show, it's 9:46. Before I have to scram, give us a call at 516. What's the number again? Yes, 516-572-7438. I nearly gave you my credit card number, or what was it? It was my password to the bank account. A wrong piece of paper. I brought the wrong thing today. It's 516-572-7438. So let's just little thought again about this. We're talking a lot about fish. So the signs for a fish, in order to be kosher, has to be fins and scales. The Talmud tells us and adds that every fish that has scales has fins. But there are those that have fins but don't have scales. So a fish that has scales definitely also has fins, meaning that the scales themselves are a proof that the fish in question is kosher to eat. But those fish that have only fins do not necessarily also have the scales, and therefore not necessary are they kosher to eat. So now, when you go, so now you know which fish is kosher and which fish restaurant we go into. But anyone who thinks for a moment that the commandments and the Torah is just it's not just a book of instructions of what is allowed to be eaten and what isn't. There's something deeper about a moral message about these fins and scales. Hasidic philosophy in general, and the Rebbe's teachings in particular, teach us how the entire Torah is one big lesson in serving God, how each specific mitzvah or story relates to each one of us in every place, in every day, in every age. And that's also true with regards to the kosher symbols for fish. So stand by as I share with you the insight to that. Let me just see, we have a new comment coming out. What about gefilte fish? That's it. I think between your gefilte fish, and Kim's, horseradish, red or white, we got a shidduch going over here. We got a match. Unbelievable. So let me know, Eitan, when you're gonna deliver the gefilte fish, and I'll provide. Oh, Kim, you'll provide the horseradish for this.
I'll have an assortment of horseradish.
Yeah, better than I thought. So what's the inside of this whole? What's the big lesson of fins and scales and fins? What does it mean? And the Rebbe, of course, often spoke about teaching that those who go down to the sea in ships, who work in mighty waters. This is a sentence from the Tehillim. And the Baal Shem Tov sees this, that you and me, all of us are alive today. We're born. The soul comes into the water. We're sent into this world, which leaves, so to speak, we find ourselves in this physical world. And it's like a fish in water. So every human being can see themselves like a fish. And we have mighty waters pushing us this way, pushing us that way, the burdens of livelihood, the obsession with the materialism. And the Rebbe goes on to explain that there's something special that allows this fish, you and me, in this water, the world of materialism, as it's symbolically, of what it really means, what both the fins and scales really mean. Why are people compared to fish in the sea? Why? Because just as bigger fish in the sea eat up the smaller fish in the sea, so too it is important for us to have a good government, otherwise people will swallow each other alive. We see what's going on today with all kinds of stuff going on. Furthermore, we have to be careful to be that, have the signs of a kosher fish as opposed to a non-kosher fish. What does it really mean? Well, think about it in the following manner. The fins allows a person, or the fish, to move, right? To be able to go against the current. The scales surround the body. So they're more of a protective of the body, and then you have the fins that push it. So the fins is, if you ever go diving, this is what gives the person the power to swim against the stream. So too the Torah, what gives us the strength to stand up against the world. And just like Abraham, he swam against the norm. He went against the entire world, which at that time focused on false gods. So just as fins are a part of a body of the fish, so too, in this sense, Torah that we study becomes part of us. With Torah and that kind of attitude and outlook, you're able to move forward against all the prevailing whims and whams. But that's not all. You can't just have fins. We also need to have the scales. What protects? What provides? What gives us a sense of strength? Just like the scales of a fish, it symbolizes the mitzvahs. Mitzvahs bond to the person, but only at the time the person is doing the mitzvah. For example, when you put on tefillin, you bond with the tefillin, with the mitzvah. But when you take the tefillin off, you're separated from the mitzvah. When a person gives tzedakah, then his or her hands physically are giving money, literally bonds with the divine energy. But once the money goes into the charity box, the hand is no longer part of the mitzvah. So it's the same thing with scales. As long as they're attached to the fish, us, they're part of the fish. But when the fish sheds them, the fish and the scales become two separate things. So along comes the Talmud and teaches us that a fish that has fins doesn't necessarily have scales too. Meaning, you have someone who learns Torah isn't necessarily a person who also keeps them. They know, they quote, but they're not involved. It's possible to study the Torah and remain the same self-centered person who only cares about themselves. As the Talmud says, whoever says, I have nothing but Torah, he doesn't even have Torah. That means there is a kind of a person who says he's only interested in the Torah. But on the other hand, a fish that has scales certainly has fins, meaning that the person who is busy with keeping actual mitzvahs, whether they are the ritual mitzvahs or the ethical mitzvahs, like helping each other, is definitely associated one another or another with Torah study too. In other words, if a person does mitzvahs, his fins, his Torah outlook, and his personality is able to swim. But if a person just has the fins and doesn't have the scales, we're saying that fish isn't kosher. Because in the merit of keeping mitzvahs, the person will ultimately arrive at the true study of what Torah is all about. And that is why when the Rebbe came out with the 10 mitzvah campaigns, as is so well known, what did he emphasize? Practically doing the practical mitzvah, putting on tefillin, putting up a mezuzah, tzedakah. Because if a fish has scales, it'll definitely will have fins too as well. I just want to remind everybody, I know that tomorrow, April 8th, everybody's so nervous and wondering about the rare solar eclipse. And there's much more. We've discussed it. You can go into my Facebook page and you, oh my goodness, hi, Brianna, thank you so much. Brianna, thank you so much. Let's say we have Michelle Sprackman. Thank you. I hope I said it right. $50. Thank you so much. You also earn an Amazon Echo Dot. We also say thank you for this, for helping us. Michelle, I know that I think I had the opportunity of speaking to you last week. Thank you for listening to us every single week and supporting this great station. So tomorrow's eclipse, don't get nervous. An eclipse is a reminder that God is running the show, basically. And from the Talmud and everywhere else. By the way, the big important lesson when we think about tomorrow, the sun and the moon, originally in the biblical discussion, the sun and the moon had their own powers. The sun and the moon were equal powers. Moiris HaGdolim, they were great powers. The moon turned and complained, how can there be two big lights in the sky? God said, is that how you feel? And that's how it came about. There's an immediate turn down of the light of the moon. And therefore it had to now be a recipient of the light from the sun. In the future, we pray, we look forward to when the moon will have the same light as the sun. But what is the lesson to all of us today on the eve? The moon complained. It was too big-headed. It was jealous. Didn't want to have anybody else around them as, giving light. So the lesson of the solar, one of the many lessons of the eclipse in general is we should never fall into the trap of jealousy. Jealousy of somebody else's car, of holidays, vacations, and boats, who knows what. There's no place for jealousy. The only place for jealousy is of those who study, who learn Torah. It says, Kina Safrim Tar B'Chachma. If we are jealous of those who study and are learned, that helps ourselves become more learned. So perhaps one of the lessons of the solar eclipse is that, please, the lesson of not being jealous about anybody else, because originally the moon had the same strength as the sun, but went out of his way to say, hey, I don't need any competition. I don't like another light. Let us never be upset about someone else's success. And we look forward to a day when the sun and the moon will be equal. That means everything in this world there'll be a balance. Everybody has everything, every single one of us, whoever we are, whatever affiliation, whatever part of the humanity we belong to, it's really all of us can shine. And when we eclipse each other with jealousy or negativity and all the garbage that we have to read, So I'm going to take the lesson of Dr. Kilshevsky. I'm going to go and eat some gefilte fish, and Kim is going to rush out in between programs to buy the horseradish, a multiple choice of I'm telling you, you're so kind today, Kim.
I'll be grinding the horseradish.
You'll be grinding. So, dear friends, I want to say a big thank you to everybody who joined us, who donated. It's not too late at any point of the day. You can call in at any time at 516-572-7438. Thank you. It means so much to the station, means so much to everybody who works so hard. And to me personally, I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. And you can see it's been 2 hours. Gaval Geschrigen. I have to get out of here because in our synagogue today, we are celebrating the bris of a little baby boy. And that should be a blessing to everybody as well. So have a wonderful week. Stay well. Sei gesund. And thank you again from the bottom of my heart.